ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. This is the and Powerful Zilla, and my microphone's messed up. Hello. Today I'm going to give you my final thoughts on testing. I have gone through the 15 games on anti-submarine warfare. I have gone through the 10 games of submarine warfare, played around with it a bit, got a little bit more used to it, and the bottom line is this is not completely finished yet. Obviously, there are some tweaks that need to be done. So let's go over the two different categories of ships we're dealing with here and see what needs to be done. First of all, as far as submarines go, they're fun to play. They are extraordinarily squishy and probably justifiably so. The ping nonsense, and to me, it's nonsense, needs to go. There needs to be a better system in place. That ping thing takes a little bit too much. It's kind of like a side game, if you will, a mini game within a game. Um, it takes a little bit too much to get it right. If you're launching some torpedoes from depth, God knows where they're going to go. Some may hit the target, some may go underneath the target. Submarine on submarine warfare is dicey at its very best. It's luck. A lot of it is luck. Um, you're better off, I found, in my experience on a submarine, you're much better off stealthing around and getting into position and launching your torps and then diving again that way and without pinging. So you are probably not going to get detected that way at all, and they won't know you're there until the torps arrive. As far as the ships themselves go, their speed is unrealistic as far as real life goes, but this is an arcade game, so we will let that go. However, these things turn like pigs. They are terrible, and that needs to be improved a little bit. Um, it would be nice if the guns on the deck were activated with the P key. Um, Even though you only have one gun, and one little anti-aircraft gun. At least you got something. So it'd be nice if you had those as secondary guns that could fire. Um, Outside of that, I'm thinking Wargaming's pretty much set on this. This is pretty much where it's going to be. It's probably coming very soon into the game in a separate game mode called Sub Battle. I just don't see Sub Battle testing the thing in the real game very well. And the reason I don't is right now in this testing thing, it's tier 6. And at tier 6, yeah, there's no tech trees, nothing like that. In fact, on the subs, you can't even module it. You can't put anything on it. It is what it is. You can't even put a camouflage or flags on it right now. So you couldn't test whether a speed flag would help or if a rudder shift module or upgrade would work. You can't even test that. Captain skills wise, these things are very lacking. It's a separate class of ships. It's completely different animals. So you've got the bog standard things. Well, look at all the crossed out circles, right? Um, your short range torpedoes, anyway, having acceleration wouldn't, to me, it wouldn't matter. What they need to do is redo these trees in such a way like the CVs have a attack tree that's completely different from every other class of ship. So these need their own thing. Perhaps an ability, instead of concealment, perhaps something like run silent, run deep, but would allow the submarines to break contact, or at least the opportunity to break contact and get away. Okay, because once you're underwater and you get caught, you're pretty much done, unless you get really lucky. As far as PTR in general goes, I don't. This is just not finished. They put the directives up here, and that's all fine and good. Okay, but you get these crates, right? Okay, let me get to one. You get these Soviet crates for the Soviet cruisers. It's down there. It's stuck. All right, and you open them up, and you get these, but they don't show up anywhere in the armory. And as far as the tech tree goes, they're supposed to have these new Soviet cruisers coming out, right? Okay. Well, here's the tech tree. I don't see no Soviet cruisers that are different from now. I don't see no split. So if the Soviet cruisers are coming in 9.4, I don't see it yet. I think what they did with this test server was just to test a few concepts here and there, especially with the submarines. And they did that. Now let's talk about the other side of the coin, anti-submarine warfare. I played the Fubuki, the Gade, the Icarus, and the Farragut. I'm just going to come out and say it. Hydroacoustic search needs to work exactly like radar works against destroyers. It needs to detect submarines like a bandit. Okay? Odds of a submarine hitting a destroyer aren't very good to begin with. And of course, if they ping you, they're detected right away, and you can close the distance on them and drop your depth charges on them. But not all of destroyers have depth charges, and not all cruisers have depth charges. And that's what I'm saying. What I found was throughout the course of the day was that the destroyers tended to get focused on a lot more than they're focused on now in the game, because teams figured out very, very quickly that if you get rid of the destroyers, your submarines are going to dominate, and pretty much with impunity. Okay? So, destroyers need help. Period. I think they all need some kind of heal. They all need to be equipped with some kind of hydro or sonar. And the bottom line is they need help. They're the only ships, really, outside of a few light cruisers, that have the ability to drop on a submarine. For example, the Gede here has 3 charges of depth charges to drop on a submarine. Okay? Subs figured out pretty darn quickly that instead of being depth charged, it's much better to fight it out on the surface and get away that way. They can't depth charge you if you're on the surface. So they need to make it so that submarines really hurt when they get shot by guns. Right? Okay? That needs to happen. All right? Because some of these destroyers have some really weedy little guns, and they're not really affecting the submarines as much as they should be. Okay? They also need to introduce other anti-submarine warfare ships, and perhaps even some devices like the Hedgehog that the British had in World War II, okay, to counter submarines. Because what's happening is the enemy teams, opposing teams, are taking out the destroyers, and then the submarines are basically doing whatever they want, okay, with a few exceptions. As far as cruisers go, and this is my little bugaboo with the cruisers. All right, the U.S. on the Dallas, you get depth charges, but you only get 2 charges, and what do they set off? Let me pull it up here for you. Okay, you get 2 groups, and it's 8 charges in a group. If you look at the back of the ship, what happens is these charges go off, right? They set off these charges, and they go around like this, okay? All right? Now, that's all fine and good. Destroyers get 3, and these things take 40 seconds to reload, okay? So, yeah. And some, they roll off the back, different animations and whatnot, and that's all fine and good. The problem, as I said, is cruiser is not going to run down a submarine, and a cruiser is not going to outmaneuver a submarine as far as getting to it. And these are focused down just as well. So you've got light cruisers and destroyers, some of the squishiest ships in the game, trying to hunt submarines while they're dealing with everything else, the anti-aircraft, anti-ship, taking caps, scouting, and all those other things combined. It's a little bit too much to ask, all right? So they need to do something to help these ships out and provide more anti-submarine counter on other ships as well, because this is just too much for these ships to deal with on their own, okay? Mainly because they just get focused down so goddamn fast. Yeah, they don't even have a chance to play, really. I think in my experience, I dropped depth charges on maybe 6 submarines. It's my experience with the destroyers especially. Just go ahead and play your game the way you normally would, and if you happen to come across a submarine, so be it. Don't go out there and actively hunt for them. That's going to get you killed by the enemy team because they're going to focus you down. Okay? So that would be my suggestion for right now, unless Wargaming does something to help mitigate the problem. They're never going to completely fix it, but it helps. And it makes destroyers very difficult to play effectively, and yeah, you're going to start to see destroyers hang back and wait until the later game to get involved in it. And that's really, it's going to change the meta for almost every single ship. Battleships are basically XP pinatas for destroyers. However, or not destroyer submarines. However, if a subsurfaces to fire at a battleship, those secondaries can make it pay, especially like the German and the Massachusetts and things like that. They can really make that sub pay for it. The secondary guns on a battleship or even a cruiser do more damage to a submarine than the destroyer's main guns do. That needs to be fixed. That needs to be fixed, seriously. Carriers. Carriers are very effective against submarines as spotting, and if you can, through luck or, dare I say it, skill, find a submarine surfaced or surfacing or crash diving, and you can launch rockets on it, you can do a tremendous amount of damage to that submarine. They need to improve that. They need to make it so that carriers can kill subs in a New York minute. They need to make it so that when you drop your bombs, I wouldn't say the Japanese because they're armor-piercing bombs, but when you drop bombs, area bomb over a target, maybe have an option for depth bombs on these planes. And when you drop, they should have a depth that they go down to before they explode if they hit the open water. One of the tactics I saw some submarine captains in divisions do, it's pretty cute. They would get themselves parked up underneath a friendly battleship, right up underneath the bow and underneath the keel, and so that the enemy destroyers couldn't close in and drop depth charges on them, and they could attack with impunity from underneath their friendly ships. So that's something that certainly needs to be looked at in some way, shape, or form. But overall, this is a pretty interesting and challenging upgrade for the game. I think this is definitely going to change things. It's going to definitely change the way the game is going to be played in general, in ways we can't even foresee right now. So, yeah, I'm done testing it for now. I had fun. I'll grant you that. And it's certainly the most frustrating part to me was the ping business. The funnest part, besides just playing the submarines, was trying to outsmart the submarines on your destroyer while staying alive. That was a real challenge. And again, so, my points are fix the sub steering that needs to be improved. Get rid of the ping. The ping doesn't even need to be there. Just buff the torpedoes and get rid of the ping. The torpedoes need additional range too. They go slow enough that they should have an additional kilometer of range to each one of these things. So I don't know what y'all think. If you had an opportunity to try it out, you get lots of prizes on the main server. If you do, and leave some feedback in the forums like I did, you leave your 2 cents worth. Who knows? You might get change, right? So until next time, you guys be good to each other and have a great, great day. Bye.